Hello, everyone. My guest today is Sanghvi. He's played a pivotal role in revolutionizing logistics with the use of data science and machine learning. He's been felicitated by Forbes as one of the top 30 under 30 achievers in 2017. He's also recognized as Achiever of the Year in 2017 by Business World as he continues to develop his product, Logi Next. All right, Druville, are you ready to take us to the top?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
You bet. Tell us about the company. What's Loginex do and how do you make money? What's your revenue model?
Well, we are a SaaS company. We are focusing on optimizing movements for enterprises. So take it as similar to how Google Maps optimizes your movements on a daily basis when you go from your work to your home, to your friend's place, and so on. We do a similar thing at scale for large enterprises. We charge them on a monthly basis for the number of licensed users.
Okay, and give me a customer example just so I understand this clearly. Is you're helping them actually move office locations?
No. So when we say we had them move their assets, what we mean is that we help logistics and supply chain companies move their trucking, their shipments, and so on. So if I have to just spend a couple of more minutes on what exactly we do, we work with one of the largest retailers in the U.S. and we also work with one of the largest transportation companies in the U.S. Now, both these verticals, they are pretty much the same from the logistics standpoint, where goods are moving from their warehouse to their stores and from stores to their home. Right. And then especially with the advent of e-commerce, every customer is wanting faster deliveries, right? I mean, Amazon has changed the world where people want things in like 4 hours, 6 hours, same day, next day. So with having said all this, the market trend has been going more and more towards how do you really fulfill customers' needs by pushing shipments faster. And what our software does, it kind of aggregates multiple customers together based on their time preferences, location data, traffic information, available truck capacity, and so on. And we put a machine learning layer to it so that the routes become optimized and these enterprises fulfill their customers with shipments faster.
Is this all the way from kind of the warehouse to the consumer, or is it only kind of last mile?
It's a lot of different models that we have, and we have different configurations for that. So when we say logistics optimization, to most people it looks like one word, but honestly, it's a whole complex world behind the scenes. So that it could be last mile from a warehouse, it could be last mile from a station, which is a small sorting hub. It could be from store, right? So if you go to Target.com, when they ship, they don't ship it from their warehouse; they ship it from their nearest store. It could be grocery deliveries. It could be food deliveries when the food is coming from the nearest restaurants. So there's so many different models how the shipment arrives to you. Sometimes it's called drop shipping, where the shipment comes straight from the merchant and doesn't go to any of the warehouses. A merchant is somebody who's selling on a marketplace, an e-commerce marketplace. So we support all these different models, and we are the only platform which has end-to-end coverage to make sure every logistics model is covered.
And who is typically paying you? Who is your customer? Is it the actual product creator? Is it the shipper? Who is it?
Two kind of customer base. One is shipper and one is carrier, as we call it. Shippers are the ones who are either marketplace companies, retailers, food delivery companies, and so on, which are shipping goods. They may not be owning any assets, which we call it as drivers or trucks on the road. And the carriers are the one who are like, FedExes and UPSs of the world. There are tons of other trucking companies in the US across the world where they have their trucks, they have dedicated drivers working for them, and their job is to keep on optimize their productivity. Just like how Uber's job is to make sure all drivers are busy. And the busier the driver is, the more money driver makes and the more money Uber makes. We help traditional offline transportation companies become similar to that.
Okay, and you mentioned you charge as kind of it's a SaaS model. How do you equate all this back to a SaaS model?
We have what we do is we charge per asset. That means, let's say if you have 1,000 trucks across the US and you want all these drivers to be routed via Loginex platform, you want all these drivers to have Loginex app on them, then you could just pay us monthly on for all those 1,000 drivers. And that would be our revenue model. And
well, just to be clear, it's not the driver; it's the truck, it's the asset, right? Not the employee.
It's the asset. So of course, there will always be one driver in one asset, but the user cannot be a truck, right? So let's say if there's a mobile app, it has to be installed into the driver's phone.
Okay.
So then we charge per driver, not per truck. But ultimately, you will have the same number of drivers as the number of trucks you may be owning.
I see. And I'm sure this answer is going to be very complex, so I'm hoping you can simplify it for us. If I have a truck and I'm doing this kind of thing, and I'll drive anywhere in the U.S., I mean, like, what's maybe an average of what I might pay you per month to help me be more efficient?
Well, we usually work with companies with at least 100 trucks in their fleet. So we do not really work with any small or mid-scale providers. And hence, our minimum fees are like $50 per month per asset, as we call it.
Okay.
And then these 100 trucks can be purchased as minimum. Usually, the range of the customers we have is starting from 100 truck owners to 10,000 truck owners. And when we say truck owners, a lot of times they do not really own the truck, because owning a truck is an expensive thing.
You rent it.
A lot of times, in fact, all these larger companies, they are aggregated models of trucking. So they really work with other smaller and mid-scale companies, like a 5-truck, 10-truck kind of guys, and they push our software onto them so that they can be optimized, who are dedicated asset providers within the network of a large company. So that's the kind of range that we work at.
And what would you say? I know you said you go as little as 100 up to some with thousands. I'm going to force you here into an average just to make our conversation simpler. Does the average customer that you have maybe say have 1,000 trucks, or is it more like 9,000?
Our current is 500, honestly. Okay. So the majority of it is between 100 and 500. And because there are very few companies across the world who would be having more than 1,000 trucks on their fleet. So there's roughly, so just to have our statistics, right? Out of the entire fleet of the US, 90% of the fleets are less than 10 trucks. So that just directly leaves us with the 10% of the market. And within the 10% also, it goes from 10 to 1,000, which is the majority of it. And then there are very few companies who are owning more than 1,000. It's just a very common. The more trucks that you have dedicated and the more trucks you own, the business complexity becomes more and more higher and higher. Primarily because it's an offline world. It has always been, about calling drivers, making sure they're doing their job well. There's tons of compliance. There's tons of people and services aspect to it. So this whole world has been more or less offline, and that's when the whole driverless trucks kind of a new vision which is coming up, because the more drivers that you have, the more complexity that you have in the business, and nobody wants that.
So Dhruvil, just to be clear, at $50 a truck, and if your average is, call it 500 trucks, I mean, your average customer is paying you, call it 25 grand a month, something like that.
But yeah, absolutely, yes. And that directly puts it into the enterprise space. And why we prefer to be in the enterprise space is because while you're focusing on SMB with enterprise together, in our space especially, the whole selling model, the product functionalities, the configurations becomes vastly different. An SMB customer does not really care about complex workflows, integrations, and training, change management, deployment, customizations, and whatnot. Versus an enterprise customer wants all of this and probably 10 more things beyond it. They also want to talk to, it's more high touch sales. And in our space, we have kind of become one of the only companies focusing on enterprise. So it also gives us a more greenfield opportunity where we don't have to compete a lot with a lot of other smaller software providers who are offering SaaS, like pure play SaaS softwares, which can be purchased online.
When did you launch the company? What year?
It's been, I would say, close to 4 years now. We started back in the end of 2014. In 2015 is when we kind of raised our first round of investment. That's when we kind of started having our team, salespeople, marketing, and so on. Before that, we were just more bootstrapped.
Dhruvil, how much raised to date then?
We have raised $10.5 million so far.
Okay, all equity, or was there debt in there as well?
All equity.
All equity. That's great.
And then we just to kind of share additional details on that. We have an interesting split of financial and strategic investors, and I've seen lately I've been advising a lot of very young entrepreneurs, and I see there's a big trend of a lot of corporations and strategic investors wanting to invest in innovation and in startups, and that always becomes a question on should we really make raise money from a strategic, or should we stick to financials and so on? And I think we have raised from both, so we have a good kind of balance there. So for all the listeners, whoever is interested in talking more about financial versus strategic money, happy to spend more time.
That's great. No, I appreciate that. And then as you've scaled over the past 4 years, again, you raised $10.5 million. How many total customers have you scaled to?
We work with about 50 enterprise customers as of now.
And how many, if you define enterprise customer as someone with more than 1,000 trucks, I bet you know the number. I mean, how many logos or companies are there in the in the world or the U.S. with more than 1,000 fleet trucks? Is your max like 100 customers or?
No, so we would be the total market size across the world is about 4,000 companies, and we already have made a list of all those 4,000 guys. That's the whole. And when we say whole world, we really focus on Asia Pacific and North America.
Okay.
That's the only two markets we are in. We do not really aggressively sell in Europe or LATAM and China, Japan, Australia kind of markets. It's just we are not that big to kind of have a spread so wide. We do have a couple of customers in all these regions, but we do not really have any sales force or focus on these regions.
Well, what's your total team size today?
We are a total of 100 people.
Okay, 100
people. And majority of these are tech guys. So we are a very sales slim company. A rough split would be about 60 tech, 40 non-tech.
Okay, and where's everyone?
Success.
Where's everybody based?
The tech guys are majority based in Mumbai, in India, and the sales guys are majority based in North America.
Okay, where in North America? Like India, remote?
No, so we have a backend development center in Mumbai, and our CTO and my other co-founder, she is from Mumbai, so she kind of leads the whole development workforce. It helps us be more agile, be more cost effective, and be more flexible from the timing standpoint.
Yeah, Dhruval, totally understand that. In North America, though, are you remote or all in one spot?
And in North America, we are having a base in Fremont, California. We have an office in Chicago and New Jersey. But these are very small, 5-10 people kind of offices. Usually, when we walk into office, you don't find anyone. We are always at the customers. So.
That's a good thing. So rounding out kind of the economics here and the math, you mentioned earlier $50 a truck. I asked you for an average. You said about 500 trucks. So you're very much in the enterprise space. Average customer paying 50 times 500 or 25 grand per month. You then mentioned you got 50 customers. If I multiply 50 customers times 25 grand a month, it puts you at about 1.2 million bucks per month right now. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, that's great. And what does growth look like? So a year ago in October, call it 2017, what were you doing?
So we were we were doing roughly an MRR of about, I would say, 500,000 back then, or 400K.
So
that's what really, our MRR was.
Really healthy growth.
It's been growing about three.
Has most of that growth?
Yeah, I think we have been focusing on one thing for sure, where we want to grow at least twice or thrice every year. That's a strong focus. Everybody in the company knows about it and is busy working on that part.
Churn's critical if you want to drive growth. What's your revenue churn annually today?
Well, and that's why we choose enterprise space, right? The churn is annual churn is less than 5%. And this is more of a gross churn. If you see net churn is positive because we drive more expansion than contraction.
How far above 100% are you? Like 110%, 120%?
I would say 108% right now. Net is 8% positive.
That's great. Congrats. Yeah. So if you have less than 5%, if you have less than 5% gross revenue churn annually, and you're expanding those 5 points to make that up, plus an additional 8, right? So you're driving expansion of about 13% year over year for 108 net.
Absolutely.
That's great. And when you are driving that expansion, what pricing axes are you using to drive higher price points? Is it just getting them to add more trucks, or do you upsell products or seats?
Right. As of now, we are focusing purely by selling more licenses of the same business unit that we had sold to. Because typically when our customers go live, we are more into a land and expand model where they start with a couple of cities, a couple of warehouses or regions, and then they would scale up into multiple cities, multiple countries. Being an enterprise space, again, a lot of these logos are multinational organizations, so they also can scale up to multiple countries. So I think for the next couple of years, we want to be super focused just on selling more licenses and selling and expanding by geography. And beyond that, we would be having more upselling, cross-selling kind of opportunities.
And talk to me about CAC. So what will you spend to acquire a new $25,000 a month customer?
We usually spend about $10,000. That's our minimum spend. We don't have a very formal calculations, but $10,000 is something that we do, including the sales and marketing spend. And the sales and traveling expenses are over and above that, so we haven't really encountered that. So I think if we put all together, it would come about $20,000 of CAC,
20,
including sales, marketing,
how much?
spend,
20,000?
salaries, time, travel, everything. 20,000, yeah. And this is a rough estimate.
Yeah, this isn't the reason I'm asking is like that's a 1 month payback, right? If you're spending 20 grand to acquire a $25,000 a month customer, a 1 month payback tells me that you actually haven't figured out a way to spend money to drive like additional growth, because if you have, you'd drive your payback period up to 6 months or 12 months or something like that.
Right, absolutely. And that's one of the best parts about our model, where we are not at all capital intensive. And we are almost right now reaching profitability. So we are also, and when I say profitability, not the net, the gross profitability, we are going to be EBITDA profitable very soon. So yeah, this whole model is pretty efficient from the capital standpoint.
That's great. Very good. Let's wrap up here with the famous five. Number one, what's your favorite business book?
The hard things about the hard things.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Jack Ma, who also happens to be our investors.
That's a clever way to say that. All right. Number three, what's your favorite online tool for building your business?
Wow. I don't remember that name, but there was a website which has a lot of business tools available. I kind of forgot the name. I go there. I have it bookmarked, but I forgot the name of that, honestly.
Javil, just the nature of the question is you should know it immediately, because you would be using this tool every day. So like, what's a tool you use every day to grow the business?
HubSpot.
Okay. Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
8 hours.
It's pretty good, especially because you're coming to me live, I think, from your hotel room in Austin after your conference, right?
Yes. That I always make sure I have to sleep.
That's great. And what's your situation? Married, single, kiddos?
Married, no kids.
Married, no kids. And how old are you?
I am turning 30 in next 6 months.
Ah, very good. That's exciting. All right, last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
So you said, what would my 20 years old self do?
What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Oh, okay. Well, I wish I knew the value of starting up early. We had an opportunity when I was in Carnegie Mellon, and we had got selected in one of the incubators. We didn't even know back in 2010 what a startup really means, and we gave up that opportunity because we wanted to work for a corporate bank in New York. So the group of friends, we went to New York. We did an internship in Barclays and IBM and Ernst & Young. And we gave up that opportunity, and I wish I knew the value of that, the opportunity cost of that lost opportunity.
Guys, jump into a startup faster. Loginex launched in 2014. Today, doing 1.2 million bucks per month. That's up from 400 grand per month just about a year ago. They do this by serving 15 companies that manage fleets of trucks. On average, these fleets are about 500 trucks. They charge 50 bucks per truck or per asset, so that's about 25 grand per customer per month. They've raised 10.5 million bucks to scale to where they're at today. Economics are healthy, less than 5% gross churn annually, 108% net revenue expansion annually. They've got a team of about 100 people based between Mumbai, California, and other remote locations as they look to keep scaling 2 or 3x year over year. Javil, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Thanks for having me. Goodbye.